time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Milwaukee Brewers. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Friday evening to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium, Game 1 of the 3-game series with Milwaukee. For the Brewers, they are 19 and a half games behind the Cardinals in last place, but of late they have perked up. They have won 7 straight on the road. Another thing about the Brewers, they went head-to-head with the Dodgers in a 4-game series in Milwaukee and split the 4. And for that matter, coming to Dodger Stadium starting back in 2010, the Brewers have won 11 while dropping only 4. By the way, the Dodgers 5.5 games in front of the Giants, who are now tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks, 5.5 back. On the mound for Milwaukee will be Jimmy Nelson, a big guy, 6'6", about 245 pounds, comes from a nice town in Florida. Yeah, the name of the town is Niceville. And for Jimmy, he arrives with a record of 6-8. He has won 3 straight. He is 0-1 against the Dodgers. On the mound for the Dodgers, Mike Bolsinger, when he started off the year, first 7 starts, he was 4-1 and an earned run average of 2. However, Mike's hit a rough time. In his last 5 starts, he is 0-2, so he starts tonight with 4 victories and 3 losses. One other quick note, it looks like Brandon Beachy will start against Milwaukee tomorrow night. And with that, stay tuned, pull up a chair. We've got a good ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this. Dodger Stadium, Game 1 of the 3-game series with the Milwaukee Brewers. Mike Bolsinger going up against Jimmy Nelson. Bolsinger has been struggling of late. He started off the year, his last 7 starts, and he was 4-1 with an earned run average of 2. However, in his last 5 starts, he has no wins and 2 losses. His earned run average is about 5. And the worrisome fact, he's averaged fewer than 5 innings in those last 5 outings. So that put a lot of pressure on the Dodger bullpen. So we'll see about Mike tonight. Meanwhile, one of our favorites when he was a player, a real scrambler, Craig Counsell. You may remember he reminds you a little bit of any player who was not superbly gifted and yet would battle his way in the big leagues, and Craig was one of those. His lineup, Gerardo Parra in left field, Jonathan LaCroix behind the plate, Ryan Braun in right, Adam Lind at first, Carlos Gomez in center, Aramis Ramirez at third base, Gene Segura the shortstop, Scooter Gennett at second base, and Jimmy Nelson will be on the mound. So Bolsinger going through his paces, getting ready to pitch to Gerardo Parra. For the Brewers, they're 19.5 games behind St. Louis. Nevertheless, they are capable of winning, and they've won 7 straight on the road. In fact, those 7 straight, they've had at least 10 hits in every game. They had 17 hits in one. 3 times they had 16 hits. They had another with 13, and one 11 and one 10. So it can hit you and hurt you, and we'll see about the Brewers. Over their last 10 games on the road, they have 132 hits. So we'll see what they do now against Mike Bollinger and Gerardo Parra, long a favorite in Arizona, coming up. Gerardo with the Diamondbacks from 09 through 14 and then came to Milwaukee. A tough ball player, 5'11", 200, left-hand batter. Bunts well, but swings indeed. It's a high fly ball to left field. Going back is Guerrero and makes the catch for the out. With Guerrero in left field, not a bad idea to check the Dodgers defensively. They shack up this way. Gonzalez and Kendrick, Rollins and Turner, Guerrero, Peterson and Puig. Grandal, who had a huge series in Milwaukee against the Brewers, handling Bollinger. On a lovely evening, 73 degrees, the lightest of breezes stirring the flags in center field. Jonathan LaCroix, a most important player, and was out for quite a while, fractured a big toe on his left foot. He's now back. They've missed him severely, and LaCroix takes a strike, and they count 0-1. LaCroix with 2 home runs, 17 runs batted in. Missed a lot of games, and consequently the Brewers suffered. The next pitch of the right-hand hitter is off the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike. He's from Eustis, Florida. Went to school at the University of Louisiana Lafayette. Hit 18 home runs for the Brewers a couple of years ago. Hit 13 last year. Strike 1 pitch. That's on the outside corner to pick up another. So 1-2 the count. For Jonathan LaCroix, the only catcher in Major League history to have 2 7 RBI games in the same year. He's that talented. So LaCroix, an even 6-footer, 200 pounds, and the 1-2 pitch grounded foul outside of third and down the line, off speed, 78 miles an hour. Of all the catchers in Major League history, only one has ever had those 2 7 RBIs, and it's Jonathan. In fact, only 5 catchers have ever had 2 7 RBI games in a career. And that would be Bill Dickey, Smokey Burgess, Johnny Bench. So the right-hand hitter waits, and the 1-2 pitch on the way, off speed, swung on and missed, dropped by Grandal, and the tag at the plate. So LaCroix strikes out. 2 down in the first inning. Big windup and then a slow curveball in the dirt, and LaCroix chases it. Ryan Braun coming up, another fellow who makes things happen for the Brewers. Braun missed some playing time. He has had a bad wrist. It was questionable as to just when he would play, and the answer is tonight. Ryan Braun, born in Mission Hills. Last we checked, lived in Granada Hills, went to the University of Miami. He was the Rookie of the Year in 2007. Hits one foul down the right field line, and the count 0-1. Braun was also the MVP of the National League, so he's got the honors and some big home runs. His biggest year, 2013, he had 41 home runs and 112 runs batted in. He has always done well here at Dodger Stadium. The last we checked in his career, hitting .358 here. Strike one pitch, a comebacker, short hop by Bolsinger, who lobs it to first in time. So a nice inning for Mike as he sets down the Brewers 1-2-3. And at the end of half an inning, it's Milwaukee nothing, and the Dodgers coming up. Retire the Brewers in order. Now let's take a look at Don Mattingly's lineup as the Dodgers, after winning a couple against Philadelphia, move up a little bit in class against the Brewers. Jock Peterson leading off in center, Howie Kendrick at second, and Justin Turner at third. Adrian Gonzalez, Yasmani Grandal, and Yasiel Puig in right. Alex Guerrero in left field. Jimmy Rollins the shortstop. Mike Bolsinger the pitcher. On the mound for Milwaukee, and the first thing get you is his size. Jimmy Nelson, he stands 6'6", checks in at a good 245. He's from Niceville, Florida. Went to school at the University of Alabama. And the fastball in for a strike, and the count 0-1. For Jimmy Nelson, a 6-8 record, 0-1 against the Dodgers, but he has a 3-game winning streak. And his strike one pitch way inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. For Jock Peterson, trying to get started, struggling now at 228, 20 home runs, 39 RBIs. But earlier, when the Dodgers were in Milwaukee, it was the Peterson of the early season. He drills one that spills Davey Lopes in a turn. He just did get out of the way of the foul ball, and the count 1-2. So they wear the helmets, but no earpiece. The coaches are just too macho. 1 ball and 2 strikes. It took 1,000 years to get them to even wear the hard hats. Jimmy Nelson has had a lot of trouble. Left-handers are batting .304 against him. Right-handers only .224. So 80-point difference. Right-handers fastball, check swing. They look, swing, says Rob Drake, the third base umpire. And that'll do it for Jock Peterson.
Second baseman, number 47.
Take a look at Milwaukee defensively with Lind and Gennett, then Segura and Ramirez, Parra, Gomez, and Braun. LaCroix behind the plate, and Nelson on the mound. And the batter now, Howie Kendrick. Kendrick playing exceptionally well and hitting over the top here at Dodger Stadium. hitting .294 overall. Ground ball to the hole at short. Segura cranks it up and throws a strike. And just like that, 2 down here in the first inning. When the Dodgers took the field tonight, they were 5.5 games in front of the Giants and Arizona. But Arizona has just lost the Mets. Noah Syndergaard, who was so impressive here, all he did was strike out 13 in 8 innings. Gadire and Duda hit first inning home runs, and Arizona falls under 500 again. It's amazing. Do you anything at all about the mythology? Does the name Sisyphus mean anything to you? That would be Arizona. The pitch to Justin Turner is low, ball 1. He was the man condemned to push that big boulder up the hill, and he would get it almost to the top, and it would slip and roll all the way back down, and he'd have to try and push it back up again. Well, that's Arizona. The 1-0 pitch on the way to Turner for a strike, and the count 1-1. For the Diamondbacks, were 1 game under 500 13 times. They had a chance to get to 500 12 times in a row. They finally made it 500, and they've lost tonight to the Mets. Ground ball to the right side. Scooter Gennett makes the play. Down goes Turner. A very quick inning for a big Jimmy Nelson. And at the end of an inning, no score. Smiling crowd on a Friday night, and a good ball game ready to unravel. Interesting, each starting pitcher, Mike Bolsinger and Jimmy Nelson, made 8 pitches to retire the side in order in the first inning. So Adam Lind starting it off. Lind out of Anderson, Indiana, which would be the home of Carl Erskine of Dodger fame. Adam in the last 32 games hitting .325. And those tough base hits, he comes up with them. Big left-hand batter and takes a strike. He's hitting .438 with 2 out and runners in scoring position. Aoki, Goldschmidt, Posey, and Lind. Those are the tough ones in the league. The left-hand hitter, 6'2", 215, and takes high and inside. He went to the University of South Alabama. He is the second highest number of RBIs as a left-hand hitter. He is 52. Adrian Gonzalez has 53. The 1-1 off-speed pitch, good one, in for a strike, and the count 1-2. So Mike Bolsinger trying to get himself squared away. It's been a rough last 5 starts. Right-hander ready. Now his 1-2 pitch on the way. Breaking ball pulled on the ground to Kendrick. how he is up with it to make the play. So Adam Lind, who's been on base one way or another in 19 straight games, opens up and grounds out. Mike Bolsinger, to give you the numbers, his first 5 starts, an ERA of 1.1, ERA under 200. Last 7, ERA almost 5, and the opposition hitting .289. So 1 away, and another very good ball player coming up, Carlos Gomez. Gomez, right-hand batter. There are 2 Gomez on the club, Hector and Carlos. Carlos does a lot of playing. And Gomez takes a strike, 0-1. He hit for the cycle when he was with the, back in 2008, he was with the Twins. He hit the cycle against the Chicago White Sox. Carlos Gomez has been dynamite hitting with runners on base, hitting .380 in that spot. The 1-1 pitch swung on and ripped foul into the chairs down the left field line, and the count 1 ball and 2 strikes. Gomez, with his power, can also fool you. He's a good bunter. He has 5 bunt singles. He has 10 RBIs so far in the month of July. The 1-2 pitch down and away. For Carlos, last year, he had 24 home runs the year before. He had 2 years in a row where he had 20 or more home runs, 30 or more stolen bases. And the next pitch is lined into center field for a base hit. So Gomez, a solid ball player, and a 1-out single to bring up Aramis Ramirez.
Baseman number 16, Aramis Ramirez.
So Ramirez coming up. Another veteran, good third baseman. Carlos Gomez at first, and Ramirez checking in. Ramirez from Santo Domingo. Big right-hand batter. Somewhat underrated, but he can really hurt you. Throw to first. Gomez diving back to the bag. Gomez has stolen 7, but he's been caught 5 times. When you look at Major League history and home runs by third basemen, you'll see Mike Schmidt, Adrian Beltre, Chipper Jones, and then you'll see Aramis Ramirez. 379 home runs in his career. By the way, Ron Cey had 296, Tim Wallach 249. His name is also up there in the top 4 hits by a third baseman. So Ramirez, who first came up to the Pirates, he was signed by Pittsburgh back in 1994, and he had some very big years. Right-hand hitter takes low, 1 ball and no strikes. With the Cubs in 2004, 36 home runs and 103 runs batted in. He also had a year with the Cubs, 38 home runs, 119 runs batted in. So he has always been a powerhouse. 1 ball and no strikes. A big swing and a miss by Ramirez, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Basketball was his dream, not baseball. He grew up with a basketball in his hands. He wanted to be another Michael Jordan, not the next Mike Schmidt. But then a wise neighbor explained, "Son, your only chance to get out of the Dominican as an athlete is with the baseball, not with the basketball." He was 13 years old at the time. He lifts one, very playable, into shallow left center. Peterson is coming, the middleman, to make the catch. Throws to first, not in time to double up Gomez. So Ramirez fly ball to shallow center. Guerrero in, Rollins out, but Peterson took charge of the play as Ramirez pops it up. Peterson, they gave him a wide berth because he can get just about anything he can reach. Throw to first, not in time. So 2 down, and the batter, Gene Segura. Segura, one of the outstanding shortstops. He's from the Dominican. He had 6 hits in a game 2 years ago. So the right-hand hitter waiting. Balsinger looks over at first. We're in the second inning. No score. When Segura had that 6-hit game, it was against 6 different pitchers. That's quite a show. How did Segura wind up with the Brewers? Well, in 2012, the Milwaukee Brewers traded Zach Greinke to the Angels to get Segura. He had been originally signed by the Angels back in 2007. 0-1 the count. The next one to Segura is high. 5'11" and 175. Brewers always worried a little bit, kind of thick-legged in the thighs. Make sure he doesn't lose the bounce in his running. One ball and one strike to count. No score, second inning. Carlos Gomez a threat to run. Segura does not walk very much. In fact, he has only walked a total of 9 times this year. Throw to first, not in time. So we're talking about, close to 300 plate appearances and 9 walks. He also runs well enough to have 15 infield hits. Gene Segura came up with the Angels 3 years ago. Swings, hits a chopper to the hole, backhanded by Rollins, who gets rid of it on a bounce too late. So Segura running well, and for Rollins, tough play. The ball was in the hole. He had a backhand and really couldn't set for the throw, and he made a good throw on a bounce, and Segura beats it. So we told you Segura had 15 infield hits. Well, now make it 16. So runners at first and second with 2 out. Infield single for Segura to shortstop. And Scooter Gennett coming up. You might not be old enough to think about it, but anytime I hear the word Scooter, I think immediately of Phil Rizzuto of the Yankees. And if you're a Scooter, you got to be an infielder. His full name is Ryan Joseph Gennett. He's from Cincinnati. Grew up in Sarasota. That's where he went to high school. Left-hand batter, and Scooter way out in front of an off-speed pitch. 0-1. How did he get the name Scooter? Well, he was about 4 years old, and he was driving his mom crazy. He'd be in the car and always unclick his car seat. And they kept saying, keep the seat belt. Nope. He'd pop it open. And finally his mom said, I'm going to take you to the police station the next time you open up that seatbelt. And he's about 4. And sure enough, he opened up the seatbelt. So his mother, true to her word, said, we are going to the police station. Now remember, he's 4. And the police sergeant at the desk, understanding why this little guy is there, said, what is your name? And he was pretty smart at 4. He didn't want to give them his name. He said, my name is Scooter. And that name stuck ever since. 1-1 pitch. Scooter takes off the play, ball 2. He's 5'9" and 165. Signed by the Brewers in 2009 and came up for a look and played quite a bit in 2013. 2-1 the count. He has 4 home runs. Swings, taps one up along first. Fair ball picked up by Gonzalez, who's on the bag, and that's that. So a little ground ball to first. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left at the end of an inning and a half. No score. Dodgers and the Brewers. A cold, hard fact. That is, the Dodgers really have gotten fat against teams under 500. 20-8 against the poor teams, averaging almost 5 runs a game, hitting very well, and the starters holding the opposition under 3 runs. Well, with that in mind, you realize they are playing the Brewers, who are 13 games under 500, 19.5 games back, having just gotten rich against the Phillies, winning 3 out of 4. The Dodgers trying to keep it going against Craig's ball club. Jimmy Nelson ready to work to Adrian Gonzalez. Left-hand hitting first baseman. Swings, hits the first ball to the right side. Segura playing over beyond the bag, makes the play. So the shortstop at second base, and 1 pitch, 1 away. You know, with the Dodgers swinging at the first pitch, there's a rather remarkable thing about Jimmy Nelson. It really doesn't make sense. And yet, anytime you see a Dodger in this series swing at the first pitch, maybe they've been looking at a scouting report. We'll try to get it in without getting in the way of the pitches. Nelson working now on Grandal. Jimmy delivers and a strike. This year, if a hitter takes the first pitch like Grandal, the resulting batting average is .223. In his career, if the hitter takes the first pitch, the hitters are batting .245. But if the hitter swings at the first pitch, it doesn't even have to put the ball in play. If he swings at the first pitch, the batting average is .331 in his career. The pitch to Grandal low, 2-1 the count, and actually over his career, the opposition is hitting .300. Now that doesn't make any sense. I'll say it again. If the hitter swings at the first pitch, it doesn't even have to put the pitch in play. The batting average is .331. That is really one for the books. 2-1 pitch. Grandal takes off the plate. Ball 3. We get a report the Giants lead the Phillies 1-0 second inning. That's Cole Hamel, the best the Phillies have, against Mr. Bumgarner. The 3-1 pitch is off the plate. Grandal had a big series in the 4 games in Milwaukee, so they kind of pitch around him tonight. So Grandal gets the walk, and that'll bring up Yasiel Puig.
Number 66, Yasiel Puig.
Yasiel Puig out early yesterday to take some hitting lessons from Mark McGwire, and he was out again early today hitting against the pitching machine with McGwire. Last night it paid off. He had a 2-run double and a 2-run home run. So 4 RBIs for Puig last night. Nelson's fastball is swung on and missed. So there you have it. One way or another, the Dodgers must have been reading the same thing that I read. And there'll be a lot of first pitch swinging. When Nelson pitches on 4 days rest, his record is 3-7. When he pitches on 5 days record, he is 2-1 and an earned run average under 2. The pitch inside to Puig. Well, tonight he is pitching on 5 days rest. Good thing he's pitching at night. In the daytime, Jimmy Nelson's record in his career, 1 win and 9 losses. Here's the 1-1 pitch. The young man from Niceville, Florida, delivers and misses low and inside. 2 balls and 1 strike. Let's talk baseball about Jimmy. Besides the first swing, he gets a lot of ground balls. He'll get about 1.5 ground balls for every fly ball. He has a very good sinker, and he's come up with a spike curve. 2-1 pitch is low, gets away from LaCroix, but holding at first is Grandal with 1 out. One thing that Jimmy Nelson does not get, he's only had 10 called strikeouts this year. Either you swing and miss or usually you're up there a while. He had 3 bad starts. If you took the 3 bad starts away, his earned run average would be 3. Here's the 3-1 pitch to Puig. Nelson delivers way outside. So that wasn't even close. So Puig, with his body language, as if to say, I'm out here early today hitting and you don't come close to throwing me a strike. So back-to-back walks with one out. And Alex Guerrero coming up. Guerrero playing left field. Andre Ethier was hit by a pitch last night, and during the game, Scott Van Slyke took over for him in left, and we thought, well, maybe he's hurting from being hit by the pitch. The word is no. He felt a little hamstring problem, so Van Slyke played, and now tonight it's Guerrero's chance. Nelson's fastball is low, ball one. And looking at Nelson's numbers, he had struck out 83, but he's already walked 38. So he's fighting it with a record of 6-8. Two on, one out, second inning, no score. Nelson ready, comes back low again. And hold everything. Rick Granitz, the pitching coach, jogging out to the mound. Granitz, once upon a time a professional pitcher, and the Dodgers drafted him, but he opted to stay in college. But he came close to wearing the blue, so he's wearing the blue of Milwaukee. So Granitz talking to the battery, with LaCroix listening along with the pitcher, Jimmy Nelson. Rick going back to the dugout. No score, second inning, thanks to a couple of walks. The Dodgers are in business. Guerrero with Rollins to follow. Nelson said, another look in at LaCroix, and the pitch to Guerrero swung on and missed, 2-1. Talking about Granitz going to the mound and the fact he declined to go with the Dodgers, went back to school. There have been two pretty important and interesting trades between Milwaukee and Los Angeles. Here's the 2-1 pitch coming up. Fastball low, gets away from LaCroix. 3-1 the count. In 1971, Al Downing came to the Dodgers in a deal for outfielder Andy Cosco. And of course, Downing was on the mound when Henry Aaron hit that tremendous home run in 1974. In 1986, two pitchers who'd be important to the world's champion Dodgers came from Milwaukee. Ground ball wide to third, up with it there, Ramirez to second for first, and they get the double play. The Guerrero hits into the double play, no runs, no hits, one left, and at the end of two, no score. That was kind of a difficult inning for him. He had 3 3-ball counts, and yet he got away with it. We were talking about trades and Milwaukee and the Dodgers, and we mentioned the fact that there were 2 pitchers who came to the Dodgers from Milwaukee who figured prominently in the '88 championship, the late Tim Cruz and Tim Leary. They came to the Dodgers from Milwaukee for a left-hand hitting first baseman by the name of Greg Brock. So those are the 2 big deals between the clubs. Nelson, meanwhile, takes high, ball 1, and high for him is high. He's 6'6". Bolsinger into the windup, and the 1-0 pitch on the way, and that misses a little high. 2-0 the count. The plate umpire, DJ Rayburn, with Joe West, Kerwin Danley, and Rob Drake on the lines. The 2-0 pitch on the way, in for a strike. DJ Rayburn, the plate umpire, went to Hope College, and when he graduated, his parents gave him the money to pay for tuition to go to umpire school. 2-1 pitch, bad ball swung on and missed. 2-2 the count. Rayburn, 3 years in the big leagues. Then it'll be Cowboy Joe West tomorrow night. Here's the 2-2 pitch on the way. Bolsinger's changeup is strike 3 called. You don't usually change up on a pitcher unless he's a very good hitter. And Nelson is just 3 hits and 30 at bats, but he changed up on him, just a little slow breaking ball. So Nelson is frozen. Down he goes. Second strikeout. Jim puts the helmet and bat away and thinks about the strike zone. Bolsinger picks up his second strikeout. And now Gerardo Parra, who flied to left field. 0 for 1. Parra has been playing exceptionally well, they tell me. He's quite a favorite already. They loved him in Arizona. Parra started the night hitting .309. Flied to left field, though he's batting .307. Left-hand hitter. The 1-0 pitch drops in for a strike, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Gerardo Parra, among other things, has a great batting average in his career against Clayton Kershaw, of all people. The 1-1 pitch on the way. Ground ball to short. Rollins waits for the second hop and then guns it to first. So we have 2 down in the 3rd inning, no score, and Jonathan LaCroix coming up. Brewers and Dodgers met in Milwaukee for a 4-game series. That was quite a scramble, and it wound up the Dodgers won 2 and Milwaukee won 2. That's the first week in May, a trip that took the Dodgers to Milwaukee and Colorado. So LaCroix, who struck out in the 1st inning, has a look at a strike and the count 0-1. That was the series where Yasmani Grandal was almost unbelievable. He played in 3 of the 4 games, and he had 9 RBIs, and he was 8 for 12. The next pitch to LaCroix is low, 1 ball, 1 strike. Yasmani Grandal serving notice to the league that he's capable of taking a series and running away with it. 1 ball and 1 strike. Fastball is low, ball 2. 2-1 the count. So Mike Bolsinger trying to turn things around. He went from 4-1 to 0-2. And his 2-1 pitch, right hand is off speed, and it stayed high and inside. 3-1 the count to Jonathan LaCroix. Waiting on deck, Ryan Braun. The next one to LaCroix. He hesitates and then takes ball 4. So a 2-out walk to LaCroix will bring up Ryan Braun, who hit back to the box in the 1st inning. Braun hears the boos. I'm sure if you've been following baseball, you know why. He was the Rookie of the Year in 2007, and nobody questioned that. But he was the National League Most Valuable Player in 2011, beating out Matt Kemp, and the world was full of questions. Ryan takes a look at the first pitch, low, ball one, 1-0. 19 home runs, 81 RBIs last year, 15 home runs, 55 RBIs despite that bad wrist so far this year. Ryan Braun. He's 6'2" and a good 205 pounds. He's 31. He'll be 32 the middle of November. Went to school at the University of Miami. He's a notorious first pitch hitter for home runs, but he took the first pitch tonight here for ball one. The 1-0 pitch is taken on the corner, 1-1. Through last year, Ryan Braun had a half a dozen home runs on the first pitch. Perhaps the most dangerous first pitch home run hitter in the league, first baseman Anthony Rizzo of the Cubs. 1-1 to Ryan. Bolsinger tries to sneak a fastball in, but it's in the dirt, and the count 2-1. Two and one to count. The 2-1 pitch, off speed, foul back. Braun trying to, as the hitters say, wait on the pitch. Got tied up. Questioned the plate umpire. Did he swing at a strike? Ryan Braun, in his first 2 years, back in 07 and 08, he hit 71 home runs. That put his name right alongside of Albert Pujols. Joe DiMaggio in his first 2 years hit 75. Ralph Kiner, Eddie Matthews, they hit 74 and 72. The pitch swung on and missed, but gets away from Grandal, and the throw to first is late. So a 2-strike pitch is swung and missed, and it gets away from Grandal. We'll have to take a good look at that. The throw to first was very close. We'll see if the Dodgers are going to protest and have a review. Randolph chasing it, turns, throws, bang, bang play at first. Cowboy Joe West indicates safe. How close is it? It's this close. It looks like he's out. And now Mattingly says to the umpires, better check it. So they looked at the same play we did, and the ball appeared to be in Adrian Gonzalez's glove before Braun's foot was on the bag. So Cowboy Joe West, the first base umpire who made the call, the crowd reacting. Cowboy Joe, we call him that. He's been umpiring in the league 37 years. Take another look. Looks like it's in the glove before the foot hits the bag. So on that review, it's pretty obvious. In fact, Joe doesn't waste much time, and he indicates out, and the inning's over. So Braun strikes out and is nailed at first. Good call. So no runs, no hits, a man left, and at the end of 2.5 innings, no score. Dodgers and Brewers, and receive a Juan Uribe bobblehead presented by Farmer John. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. Third inning, Jimmy Rollins, Mike Bolsinger, and then the top of the heap, that would be Jock Peterson. Jimmy Nelson ready to go to work, and the right-hander delivers. First ball is tapped to short. Segura on the dead run throws him out. Nice play. The Rollins hits to Segura. One pitch, one out.
Pitcher, number 46, Mike Bolsinger.
Mike Bolsinger coming up. Bolsinger coming off an 18-pitch third inning. So he's made 45 pitches in the game. A very important thing, and of course it really figures with every pitcher, but especially with Jimmy Nelson. You want to get ahead of him. First pitch to Bolsinger, a strike. If the count is 0-2, the opposition is hitting less than half a point, 0-4-7. But turn it around. Make the count 2 balls and 1 strike, and the opposition is hitting .591 against him. So when you watch Nelson, you keep an eye on the count. Jimmy was the Brewers minor league pitcher of the year last year. Fastball swung on and missed. We mentioned earlier that he is a ground ball pitcher, and the last 6 outs have been on the ground. Nelson back, fastball in there. That'll do it for Bolsinger. For Nelson, that would be his second strikeout. And with 2 down, Jock Peterson coming up. So the balls that have been hit, Kendrick grounded to short, Turner grounded to second, Gonzalez grounded to second, Guerrero grounded to third into a double play, Rollins grounded to short, and now Bolsinger strikes out. So we'll keep track of the ground ball since that's a Nelson specialty. Jock Peterson went down on strikes. Jock's second at bat. Nelson into the windup. The Brewers load up the left side, and the pitch swung on and missed. 0-1. For Jock Peterson, and it's held up pretty much, he either hits a home run or walks or strikes out. 20 home runs, 57 walks, and 103 strikeouts. 1 ball and 1 strike. They all struggle. There's nobody who comes up to the big leagues and just rides all the way. The 1-1 pitch swung on and missed, 1-2. I remember Willie Mays so upset. He was like 0 for 23, crying that he couldn't play up here. Send me back to Minneapolis, which was a giant farm club in those days. But DeRocha said, no, don't worry. Everybody struggles here. 1-2 pitch to Jock, swung on and fouled, so he is still there. Peterson naturally has everybody on the ball club rooting for him. He has power, has speed, can cover center field as good as anyone, and a good arm. Jimmy Nelson ready, and the right-hander's pitch is a fastball high at 96. So he can cut loose. One of the things that Jimmy Nelson has come up with, and he just came up with it this year, is what they call a spike curve. Here's the 2-2 pitch on the way, and that's taken low, ball 3. In other words, let's just say he would hold the baseball with the middle and index finger on top of the ball, parallel and both touching the skin. Instead, take the index finger, bend it, and sink the nail. So now you have one finger on and one nail in, and that's the spike curve as Peterson fouls it off. In 2014 in the minor leagues, he was exclusively a fastball and a slider pitcher. Then this spring, he added the spike curve, and it's made a pretty good difference. Ron Renicky, who was then his manager, talked about how it gave him much better command of his stuff. 3-2 to Jock Peterson. The line of defense on the right side. Ramirez all alone on the left. And the 3-2 pitch to Peterson is swung on and missed. And he swung so hard he almost fell down. Slams the bat down in frustration. He is 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts tonight, and the struggle continues. And at the end of 3, no score. '15 Jeep Cherokee with an EPA estimated 31 highway MPG. It's the perfect choice. Visit Jeep.com today. 4th inning, no score in the ball game. Adam Lind will come up to start it off. The left-hand hitting first baseman grounded out in the 2nd inning. He's the one who has reached base safely, hit walk 19 straight. And he's been red hot. Strike, 0-1. Twins tried to sign him in the 8th round of the 2002 draft. He was coming out of high school in Indiana. He waited 2 years and then got some pretty good money with the Blue Jays. 1-1. 3rd round pick with Toronto. Came up in 06 and really stayed with them through last year, becoming a Brewer this year. 1-1. No runs, 2 hits for Milwaukee. Dodgers have nothing as Lind fouls it away. We were talking about good games with a lot of RBIs. A few years ago, Adam collected 6 RBIs in a game against the Tigers, and it was opening day. He had a 2-run single, a 3-run home run, and another RBI single in the 8th inning. Hard ground foul. Lind apparently very calm, so much so that Mark Scutaro, who was a teammate of his back with the Blue Jays in 09, nicknamed him Sleepy. And from what we understand, he's a big man for yoga. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Driven down the line, out of play. 2 years ago, Lind attended yoga classes as part of an off-season preparation. He had a back that was bothering him, and all of a sudden that went away. And he found himself, whenever he was banged up, going to yoga. So now he has his own yoga instructor. And down he goes on a foul tip. 4 strikeouts for Mike Bolsinger. And the batter will be Carlos Gomez.
Number 27,
Carlos Gomez singled in the 2nd inning. a wonderful player. Gomez 2 years ago had 24 home runs. Right now he has 8, 36 RBIs, and 1 for 1. It almost hits him. Ball 1. 1-0. Carlos had a habit. I don't know if he'll do it in the series. We'll certainly keep our eye out for it. He fouls that one away. 1 ball and 1 strike. Yeah, he just did it. He kisses his bat. He said he started doing that at least 10 years ago. He said, I kiss the bat, I talk to it, whatever. My first at bat, he said, I always talk to the bat and say, come on, give me something now. And he got a base hit first at bat. I mean, this game will drive you crazy if you're going to start talking and kissing a bat. 1-2 the count to Gomez. One thing he does that a lot of hitters do. He will smell the area on the bat where he hit the ball. A lot of them do that. 2-2 the count. It was May the 7th, 2008, and he must have been going steady with his bat that day because he hit for the cycle against the White Sox. Third youngest player in Major League history to do that, behind Cesar Cedeno and Alex Rodriguez. Foul back. 2-2. The boy from Santiago in the Dominican, 6'4", 210. He'll be 30 years old in December. Originally signed by the Mets. Chases one, fooled, and strikes out. I don't know if he'll kiss the bat now. He didn't ever answer that question. What do you do when you strike out? So 5 strikeouts for Mike Bollinger.
Number 16.
Bad ball.
Ramirez.
Bad bat, right? So here's Aramis Ramirez. Well, we're watching Carlos Gomez walk the bat to the far end of the dugout. That's a strike. Oh, and 1 to count. 1 ball and 1 strike. So Jimmy Nelson and Mike Bolsinger in the 4th inning, no score. Ramirez flied to center in the 2nd. Pulled back a 3rd, fair ball, and the long throw on the money. So another nice easy inning for Mike Bolsinger. 1, 2, 3 go the Brewers, and at the end of 3.5 innings, no score. attendance on Sunday at 1:10, Dodgers and Brewers. And you'll receive a Dodgers Kids hamper presented by Time Warner Cable. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. Bottom of the fourth inning, no score. No runs, 2 hits for Milwaukee. Nothing for the Dodgers except a couple of walks. Jimmy Nelson and Mike Bolsinger. First pitch, little low. Nelson with a record of 6-8. He has won 3 in a row. Fastball in there, 1-1. For Nelson, he's now made 39 pitches. We bring that up because he's getting close to 51. The opposition from 51 to 100 pitches in that entire area. The opposition is batting .209 against him. One and two. Down and dirty. New ball put in play. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Jimmy got away with that 2-ball 1-strike count by throwing in the dirt. That's the count where the opposition has been hitting .591 against him. 2-2. Fastball got him at the knees. Down he goes. That's 3 strikeouts in a row for Nelson. Gives him 4 strikeouts in the game. Good pitch. So 1 away. Justin Turner grounded out in the first inning, hitting the first pitch to Scooter Gennett. One out, 4th inning, no score. Arizona has lost. The Giants leading Philadelphia 1-0 in the 3rd. Cole Hamels, Madison Bumgarner, backhanded by Scooter, who makes the play. Justin Turner losing a base hit. Scooter got him. So 2 down in the 4th inning. That ball was hit hard, but Gennett was on it. 2 down, and here is Adrian Gonzalez. It's kind of a play that Craig Counsell would make. Counsell, the new manager for Milwaukee, a hard-playing infielder. Went to school at the University of Notre Dame and came up to the Rockies in 1995. Then played with the Diamondbacks, and then the last 5 years of his career, he's a Milwaukee boy, and for the last 5 years he played for the Brewers. Craig Counsell. High fly ball into deep left center. Parallel, however, is Gomez to the wall and makes the catch for the out. So Gonzalez, a long fly ball. Dodgers go in order. That's 7 in a row retired, starting with the double play. And at the end of 4, no score. Moments in Dodger Stadium history when they hosted the 1980 All-Star Game. Take a look back as Dodger greats Steve Garvey, Davey Lopes, and more need the National League team to victory. So don't miss Timeless Dodgers. That'll be Monday at 9 on Sportsnet LA. When the game started tonight, I was thinking about Mike Bolsinger, about, boy, what a tough act to follow. Kershaw shut out, Greinke shut out, and now Bolsinger. But Bolsinger has shut down the Brewers for 4, so the Dodgers have not allowed a run in the last 24 innings, and they've had at least one strikeout in 22 of the 24. Line drive that almost took the legs out from Bolsinger, safely going into center field without taking anything else with it. So Segura drills one, and he's 2 for 2. Boy, that was too close for comfort. Somehow Bolsinger avoided it, which is the only thing to do on a ball hit that hard. All right, Bolsinger trying to pull himself together, and the batter, Scooter Gennett. I remember anytime I see a ball like that, I think of a scene. Big Frank Howard is at the plate here at Dodger Stadium, a night game against the New York Mets. And the Mets had a left-hander by the name of Alvin Jackson, who, among other things, wore his cap right down over his eyebrows. Frank Howard hit a line drive directly between Alvin Jackson's legs. It took him several minutes before he could pitch again. I mean, he walked around the mound. The players came around with him. He didn't want anything to do with them. For all I know, he was praying. Eventually, he went back. But I think everybody in the ballpark was scared for him. 2-0 the count to Scooter Gennett, made that good play on Justin Turner. Bolsinger taking a little time, and for good reason. Taking a look over at Segura. Segura has stolen 12 out of 14. So you had best keep an eye on him. Now Bolsinger's ready. 2-1. Gennett, who's 5'9", 165. He does have 4 home runs. Scooter's 25 years old. Because he is small, 5'9", compared to the big leaguers, most of whom are pretty big, and the pitchers usually huge. They've always made fun of Scooter. There was a time in the minor leagues he found all of his clothes taped to the ceiling of the clubhouse. 2-1 pitch with the runner going and the bunt foul. And it didn't look like Scooter was trying to sacrifice. He was on the move. He was trying to drag that bunt. So that was really a hit and run play. And the bunt went foul. Segura back to first. Another time with Scooter, he found a step stool in front of a urinal in a clubhouse with his name on the urinal and the step stool. Anything to tease him, but he's a good-natured guy and loved all the kidding. Hard ground ball by the diving Gonzalez. Segura rounding second, then says, whoops, no, not on Puig. So first and second, nobody out, and Jimmy Nelson coming up. So Segura is 2 for 2. Gennett is 1 for 2, and the Brewers are in business. Jimmy Nelson struck out. Segura running hard, but he was hoping that Puig might run over the ball or kick it or something. He had no thought of trying to go to third. Meanwhile, Ed Cedar, the third base coach, talking to Jimmy Nelson. Two on, nobody out. No score in the ball game, but the Brewers threatening. Nelson figures to bunt and takes a strike. Nelson has one sacrifice. He has 3 hits in 31 at bats, and he has struck out more than half the time. Tries to bunt, that'll cost, and the count's 0-2. On deck, Gerardo Parra. And that gets away. So the runners move up, bunt or no bunt. Mike Bolsinger, coming into the game, did not have a wild pitch. So the official score will take a look. Pitch in the dirt, hits the heel of the mitt, and it will be a wild pitch. So second and third now, nobody out. And a 1-2 count is swung on and missed, but the damage is done. Nelson strikes out, but still the runners move up. And now Gerardo Parra coming up. Gerardo Parra does something that I don't believe very many other players do. But back in 2011, he was watching Omar Vizquel. And he said, wait a minute. Vizquel was using a miniature-sized baseball glove. I mean, the practice glove looked like something you'd find in a child's toy box. 0-1. And Vizquel used that, and he was a marvelous defensive shortstop. Though Gerardo, who is a fine outfielder, started working with it, and it's a defensive tool, and quite a few others use it. Segura at third, Jeanette at second, 1 out, and Parra right now not thinking about the glove. He wants a big league bat. 0-2. Parra very close to 300 plate appearances, and he has only struck out 50 times. So Bolsinger trying to put him away and keep the runners at second and third. Jonathan LaCroix on deck. 0-2. Breaking ball grounded to Kendrick. That'll get a run home. So Parra able to get the ball down to the right side. Picks up a run batted in. Brewers are on the board 1-0, and the batter will be Jonathan LaCroix with Scooter Gennett at third. So the wild pitch is a killer. It usually is. If you had 1 out and runners at first and second, that's a double play. That's on the corner to LaCroix, who was struck out and walked. Milwaukee having won 7 straight on the road. And that gets away on a swing and a miss, and the run will score. And it looks like that was in the dirt. And it looks like it will be another wild pitch, but we won't anticipate. We'll check with the scorer. Here's the pitch in the dirt and hits the heel and just goes way over towards the Dodger dugout. No chance. So 2 wild pitches means 2 runs. And Milwaukee out in front 2-0. So Bolsinger had gotten this far without a wild pitch, and he is 2 in 1 inning. Ground ball to Kendrick. That'll be that. However, 2 singles, 2 wild pitches, and 2 runs. And at the end of 4.5, Brewers 2, Dodgers nothing. Your Southern California Toyota dealers. Now, during Toyota's summer savings, you can save big on any 2015 Camry. Bottom of the 5th inning, it's 2-0 now in favor of Milwaukee. Couple of wild pitches by Mike Bolsinger and pitching coach Rick Honeycutt talking to him. Meanwhile, the Dodgers now have Grandal, Puig, and Guerrero. We can also tell you the Phillies and the Giants are tied 1-1, bottom of the 4th inning. Catcher Carlos Ruiz hit a home run with the bases empty to tie it up. Ruiz, the 36-year-old veteran catcher of the Phils, who has given the Dodgers such a bad time in the postseason. That's a strike to Grandal. So the catcher trying to atone, not that it was his fault. The 1-1 pitch hits him. So Grandal hit by a pitch, and he'll go to first base. Remember, in 3 of the 4 games the Dodgers played in Milwaukee, Grandal went 8 for 12. He had 2 home runs and 9 runs batted in.
66.
Nelson trying to get the ball in on him and got him on the leg. So Grandal hit by the pitch. Yasiel Puig, who walked in the 1st inning, coming up. Oh, and 1. In looking at Jimmy Nelson, he's a little on the wild side. When he hits Grandal, he has now hit 8 batters this year. Ocho. 0-1. Fouled at the plate. 0-2. Chin-Wei Sao gets up down in the Dodger bullpen. We talked about Chin-Wei the other day. If he comes in tonight, he will be the 25th Dodger pitcher this year. Now, it's one thing to be a struggling ball club. It's like having a bad hand in cards and you keep trying to change. But here's a first place team, 5.5 games in front, and they're ready to use their 25th pitcher. Remarkable. Ground ball to Jeanette. They're going to get one. Segura fires. Safe at first. So Puig hits into a force play. That gets Grandal off the bases. That will bring up Alex Guerrero. Puig just does beat that just because he can run so well, because the Brewers turned it well, but Puig is able to outrun it. So Puig at first, one down. Alex Guerrero grounded into a double play in the second inning. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Brewers. Nothing across for the Dodgers. No runs, no hits, no errors. We mentioned the fact at the start of the game Nelson is a ground ball pitcher. He's allowed 1 fly ball. That was the ball that Gonzalez hit in the 4th inning. Fastball, strike. Oh, 0-1. Puig goes. Pitch is missed. High throw into center field. Puig gets up, picked up in center field, then dropped by Gomez. Puig stops at third. If he had eyes in the back of his head, he might have kept coming. But he had no idea getting to third that the ball got away from Carlos Gomez. So Puig going on the pitch. LaCroix on a low ball throws high into center field. The Puig gets a stolen base and advances to third on the throwing error. Charge to LaCroix. So now Guerrero trying to pick up Yasiel Puig and cut the Milwaukee lead in half. Ball 1. On deck, Jimmy Rollins. Guerrero 30 RBIs, 10 home runs. Fouled away. Nelson, meanwhile, has only made 55 pitches. In other words, 11 pitches an inning. So he's not had to work very hard. He had retired 7 in a row until he hit Grandal. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Fastball fouled off. Jimmy Nelson made his debut at Wrigley Field, Chicago, 2 years ago, and pitched 2 perfect innings, and that got everybody's attention. He was named the best pitching prospect, the best breaking ball prospect in the Coast League. Last year in the minors, his earned run average 1.1. Meanwhile, Guerrero strikes out, and we have 2 down. So Jimmy Rollins trying to pick up Yasiel Puig. Rollins tapped to short in the 3rd inning. We have 2 out in the 5th, and remember the Dodgers have hit 1 fly ball. Puig is at third, 2 out. For Jimmy Nelson, he has 5 wild pitches. 1 ball, no strikes. Brewers 2 runs, 4 hits. Dodgers no runs, no hits in the 5th. Two and 0. On deck, you have Mike Bolsinger, so we'll see just how much of Rollins Jimmy Nelson wants. Of course, most pitchers hate to walk the number 8 hitter. They'd rather get him and then have the pitcher start the next inning. That's foul back. LaCroix got a little bit of that. 2-1 the count. Mike Matheny tells a story. Remember, Mike was a brilliant catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals who had to give up as a player because he had so many concussions. And Matheny was talking about concussions, and particularly the ones he suffered. And the first thing he said he noticed after a shot in the mask, his eyesight. High fly ball to center. At the other end is Carlos Gomez. Dodgers still do not have a hit nor a run. They leave a man. More about Matheny later. And at the end of 5, 2-0 Milwaukee. Park. They had over 57,000 to see the game, and in the National League, 2 brilliant young pitchers put on a show. Fernando Valenzuela struck out the side in the 4th inning, and then Dwight Gooden came along, the youngest player in the All-Star game, and he struck out 3 in a row. 6 consecutive strikeouts for the 2 wonderkinds, and the National League won the game 3-1. Let's go back to this one. Ryan Braun starting it off, ball 1. There wasn't nearly as much talk about Valenzuela and Gooden striking out all those hitters, because in the modern day game everybody strikes out, and strikes out a lot, and it doesn't really look as if they care that much. In the 1934 All-Star game, that's when they really remember crying outs. Kendrick will take care of Braun, 1 away. The 34 All-Star game was played at the Polo Grounds in New York, and Carl Hubbell, with that great screwball, made history. He struck out consecutively 5 future Hall of Famers. In order, they were Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin. And it was a big deal to strike all them out, because in those days the good ones hardly ever struck out, not like today. For instance, Lou Gehrig had 690 at-bats that year, and he struck out 31 times. Joe Cronin, the entire year, struck out 28 times. So, of course, for Carl Hubbell, the idol in New York for the Giants, it was an incredible game. And he wasn't really a great strikeout pitcher. Hubbell that year pitched over 300 innings and struck out 118. But can you imagine the Giants fans in the Polo Grounds roaring in delight as Carl Hubbell struck out Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, the big Yankees from across the river. Ground ball. Nice play by Turner, who makes it look so easy. And for Mike Bolsinger, after a rocky fifth inning, he comes right back with a dandy sixth. And at the end of 5.5, 2-0 in favor of Milwaukee. Wednesday, July 29th, you'll receive a Yasiel Puig bobblehead presented by Jack in the Box. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. The 29th, it'll be the Dodgers and the Oakland A's. Bottom of the sixth inning, Alberto Callaspo will bat for Mike Bolsinger, then Peterson and Kendrick. I didn't finish talking about Mike Matheny, who had suffered so many concussions from foul balls in the mask. And Matheny tells a story. After a while, every time he got hit in the mask with a foul ball, it would bother his eyesight. And then one game he was catching Matt Morris, big right-hander for the St. Louis Cardinals. Here's the 1-0 pitch in there. And Matheny took a lick at the mask, and I mean, as he said, sometimes he'd want to go to sleep as soon as he was hit in the mask. This time, his eyesight was bothering him, and he staggered out to the mound. Strike two. And he said to Matt Morris, "No matter what I tell you, fastball." Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way. Swung on, tapped to third. Ramirez, 1 out. Anyway, Matheny went behind the plate, forgot all about that he had said to Morris about a fastball, and kept calling for the curveball, curveball, curveball. And Morris wound up with a runner at third. Threw the fastball because that's what Matheny had told him to do, and he hit Matheny right in the chest, and the ball kicked away, and the run scored. And Morris was furious. And in the dugout, Morris came over to Matheny and said, "What's wrong with you? You just told me to ignore the pitches." Matheny had no memory of that at all. Just from foul balls into the mask. It's a tough job back there. Well, here's Peterson. Jock has struck out twice. We have 1 out in the sixth inning. Dodgers still looking for a hit. Peterson batting .227. 2-0 Milwaukee. And the Dodgers getting a dose of their own medicine, they used to say. After Kershaw and Greinke pitched shutouts, now they're on the other side. 1-1. Check swing. They're going to look. Swing, says Rob Drake. So for Peterson, the count 1 ball and 2 strikes. One and 2. And hit in the air to right, coming up to play it on a bounce is drawn. So Peterson, after striking out twice, gets a base hit. Boy, that's a big boost for him. And the batter, Howie Kendrick, and for the Dodgers, that is hit number 1. Jimmy Nelson went 5 1/3 before giving it up. And the batter now, Howie Kendrick. Kendrick has grounded to short and struck out. Fastball off the glove. Picked up by Jeanette. No play. If Nelson lets that ball go by, that's a double play ball. The ball was not hit hard enough to get through. And for Craig Counsell, who knows all about tough breaks on the infield, that's a bouncer that Jeanette starts a DP with it. But now no play. It will go as a base hit for Kendrick. Dodgers get a big break. Of course, when you're 6'6", you think you can handle just about anything around the mound. But Nelson couldn't do it. So the tying runs are aboard with 1 out, and here's Justin Turner. Oh, what the Giants are doing to Philadelphia. And a strike. In the bottom of the 4th inning, so far, the Giants have scored 8 runs. They lead the Phillies 9-1, and in that inning, Hunter Pence hit a grand slam, and there's only 1 out. Good fastball at 93. 0-2 to Justin Turner. So the Dodgers trailing 2-0. The Giants trying to cut the lead to 4.5. Arizona might have had a shot, but they lost. So Mike Bolsinger, who could lose or could win, depending upon what the Dodgers do in this inning. Adrian Gonzalez on deck. Ball 1. Still averaging about 12 pitches an inning. 1-2. Nelson has had 2 innings tonight where he made only 8 pitches, in the 1st inning and in the 4th. Turner robbed of a hit in the 4th inning by Scooter Gennett. 2 on, 1 out, bottom of the 6th, 2-0 Brewers. Brewers trying to win their 8th in a row on the road. Fastball, ground ball to Segura, quickly to Gennett, no play. A rolling legitimate slide by Howie Kendrick takes the play away from Gennett, so they have to settle for the force. And that brings up Adrian Gonzalez. So a good play by Howie Kendrick, a very legitimate play. And of course, one second baseman taking out another second baseman, and that is certainly understood. Scooter trying to get away, but couldn't do it. So we'll see how important that is now. It allows Gonzalez to come up. First and third, 2 out. A fly ball to left field. Gerardo Parra, a Gold Glove out there, and that'll be that. So the Dodgers get 2 base hits and nothing to show for it. And at the end of 6, 2-0 Milwaukee. By Flex Alert. This summer, the power is in your hand. FlexAlert.org. And by the Acura It's That Kind of Summer event. We go to the 7th inning. Milwaukee stubbornly holding on to a 2-0 lead. Mike Bolsinger allowed 2 runs, 4 hits, walked 1 and struck out 6. 2 wild pitches cooked his goose back in the 5th inning. So Chin-Wei Sao coming in. He's from Taiwan, pitched for the Chinese Taiwan team. Originally signed by the Rockies and actually made it to Colorado in 2003. Then he stayed there in 04, 05, came over to the Dodgers in 07, then played Chinese ball. And for the first time since 2007, Chin-Wei Sao is in a major league game. He's 6'1", 210, and he is 34 years old. Ground ball to Turner. That's off the bat of Ramirez. Oh, 1 away on 1 pitch here in the 7th. By the way, Jimmy Nelson pitching very well through 5, had a no-hitter until Peterson singled to right field. There's only been 1 no-hitter in Brewer history. Juan Nieves did that back in 1987. Ball 1. Segura single to short, single to center, scored a run. Wild pitch set it up. Ground ball got him home. That's a strike. Gene Segura hitting .272. He has 3 home runs, 24 runs batted in. Little slider hit by the mound charging Rollins. Kick and throw too late. The Rollins did everything possible. Segura legs it out to go 3 for 3.
Second baseman, Scooter Gennett.
Scooter Gennett coming up. Take another look at Rollins' effort. He's angling his body, picks the ball up, throws accurately, but Segura able to leg it out. Gennett is 1 for 2, single to right field in the 5th inning. Came around to score on a wild pitch. Segura has stolen 12 out of 14. There he goes. The pitch, a strike. The throw is in time to get him. So a nice throw by Yasmani Grandal to erase Segura. Shortstop standing on the bag. They have not broken the news to him yet. Second base umpire Kerwin Danley has given the sign, and I guess the young shortstop never saw the sign that he's out. So he's out there at second base saying, I'm not moving until I'm told to leave. And one reason perhaps the Brewers might review the play. And then they decided not to, and Segura comes in. So it was close enough for him to wait and look. 2 out. Now Grandal goes back to work. There's the play. The tag by Rollins and the hand so close to the bag. Kerwin Danley right there to give it a call. 0-2 the count to Scooter Gennett. When we talk about no-hitters in Milwaukee, we are talking about the Brewers. I'm sure you know, if you've been around at all, the great years the Milwaukee Braves had. And they had 4 no-hitters. That's a base hit for Gennett. Jim Wilson pitched a no-hitter for the Milwaukee Braves way back in 1954. Lou Burdette had a no-hitter in August of 1960. The Hall of Fame left-hander Warren Spahn had a no-hitter in September of 1960. And then Warren Spahn the next year, 1961, had his second. So there were 4 no-hitters in Milwaukee with the Braves, and 1 no-hitter, Juan Nieves, for the Brewers. Oh and 1. 0-2. Jimmy Nelson up there at the plate has done pretty much as advertised. In 6 innings, he's had 10 ground ball outs, and he's made only 75 pitches. Fastball puts him away. So that's the inning. 2 hits, but nothing to show for it. 1 left. And at the end of 6.5 innings, it remains 2-0 Milwaukee. Leading 2-0. What's ahead for the Dodgers? Well, 2 more. tomorrow night at 7:10 and Sunday afternoon with the Brewers. Dodgers then, of course, have the All-Star break. The game is on the 14th. Then they have a long road trip, Washington, Atlanta, and New York. So the next time following Sunday, the Dodgers play at home, would be July 28th. And that would be a 2-game series with the A's. A change at third base. Hernan Perez takes over at third. Aramis Ramirez comes out, and Jimmy Nelson about ready to go to work. Yasmani Grandal has walked and hit by a pitch, hitting .278. Two runs, 6 hits for Milwaukee. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. And Jimmy Nelson ready. And on the corner for a strike. In the Dodger bullpen, if they get anything going, they would hit for so. And J.P. Howell begins to loosen up. By the way, we mentioned that Sal pitched in 2007 and then disappeared from the major leagues, and now pitched tonight. 2015 he made 11 pitches. That's a long time between pitching in the big leagues, and you might wonder what the record would be. Well, the record 13 years, but you have to go all the way back to 1890. From 1890, a fellow named Jack McFettridge with the Phillies pitched in 1890, left and returned to the big leagues 13 years later. High pop fly. It's Scooter, the second baseman. In modern times, the last big leaguer to go 8+ years between appearances with a team, Carlos Pulido with Minnesota. 1994, came back in 2003. Minnie Minoso went 12 years with the White Sox. Oh, 0-1 Dupuis. 1 out, 7th inning. Yasiel walked in the 2nd inning and hit into a force play in the 5th. High pop foul, no play. That'll go back in amongst the fans. Good. The youngster got it. No balls and 2 strikes. Alex Guerrero on deck. Jimmy Nelson trying to extend a 3-game winning streak, and down goes Puig. It's not like Nelson is blowing the ball by the hitters. He is just plain pitching. He has struck out a half a dozen. And the batter's Alex Guerrero. Meanwhile, Zach Greinke watching Nelson. Or Zach at one time a Brewer, on his way to Cincinnati with the unbelievable earned run average of 1.3. Guerrero's 0 for 2. Chopper to third. Perez just came in, drops it, recovers, throws, and that gets away from Lind. So Hernan Perez just came in to play third base, fields the ball, and then drops it. So it'll be an error charge for sure. Whoops. And that's that. So Guerrero is aboard, and the batter will be Jimmy Rollins. Shortstop, Jimmy Rollins. it's very hard, I'm sure, when you think about it, to be put into a game defensively in the 7th inning. You've been sitting in the dugout. You don't have any chance to warm up or take much infield. In you go, and then sure enough, a ball's hit right at you. So that means Nelson had to work a little bit harder. Inning should be over. And ball 1 to Jimmy Rollins. Jimmy is grounded to short, fly to center, 0 for 2. Hernan Perez over there at third base was originally signed by the Tigers, though he spent his career with Detroit, coming to the Brewers this year. And that's going to be hit into right center for a base hit. Over to get it is Gomez. On his way to third easily is Guerrero. So because of the error by Hernan Perez, instead of the inning being over, the Dodgers get a big break. First and third, 2 out, and Andre Ethier will come up, and he will bat for Sal. So Jimmy Rollins keeps the inning alive. So Andre Ethier coming up. Rick Granite's going out to the mound to counsel Jimmy Nelson. Looking to see Andre Ethier in the past is 1 for 3 against Jimmy Nelson. So in the inning, Grandal popped up, Puig struck out, and Guerrero hit a routine ground ball to third. And Perez fielded it, juggled it, dropped it, and then threw late. So it's a big error. 2 errors in the game for Milwaukee. A left-hander, Will Smith, gets up in the Brewer bullpen as Ethier is announced. So you can just imagine how Perez feels at third, committing the error on a routine ground ball, and the Dodgers now trying to jump on that opportunity. And a strike, 0-1. Andre hitting .279. He has 10 home runs, 27 runs batted in. In fact, add a couple, give Andre 29 runs batted in. 1 ball and 1 strike. Hit by a pitch last night, came out with a tender hamstring, and now in there in a big spot. 2 outs, 7th inning, 2-0 Milwaukee. And there goes Rollins. The pitch is high, and he steals second base without a play. So now the tying runs are in scoring position. So LaCroix unable to even make a throw, much I'm sure to the consternation of Craig Counsell. 2 balls and 1 strike to Andre Ethier. Nelson off the rubber. And a meeting at the mound. This has to be a very tortuous moment for Hernan Perez. Third baseman sitting in the dugout. Aramis Ramirez playing. Then they put him in, and now he's got to be wound up tight. His error has kept it open. Ramirez sitting back in the dugout with nothing to do with it. And a big moment for Jimmy Nelson. 2-1 to Ethier. And that's a strike. 2-2. All right, deuce is wild here. And a fly ball into left center, and it's going to drop. And sure enough, Perez's nightmare has come true. It's a 2-2 tie. Oh, boy. He's 24 years old, and he would love to find a place to hide. So Andre Ethier, a single to break the heart of Jimmy Nelson, not to mention what it did to the Milwaukee fans. A 2-out error, and the Dodgers cash it in. So Ethier comes up with a clutch base hit. Justin Turner doing a great job waving in the runners. And Ethier now has 31 runs batted in a 2-2 tie. Of course, it's the old story. There's always a reason why a team is 19.5 games back. This is just another small moment. You can imagine how frustrated and angry they are. And, of course, remember, it's the bench. They're the ones who sent Perez in there. So 2-2 in the 7th inning. And Jock Peterson coming up. Ethier at first, held on by Lind. Among other things, Bolsinger is off the hook. They've loaded up the right side on Peterson. Perez all alone on the left side, and he feels all alone for quite some time. That's ball one. Not to mention the feelings of Jimmy Nelson, all of his hard work. And he has been brilliant. 2-out error in the 7th inning sets the stage, and the Dodgers tie. 1 ball and no strikes. Fastball sliced down the left field line and deep, right in the corner, off the railing. The ball's in play. 1 run scores, 2 run scores, a double from Jock Peterson, and the Dodgers lead 4-2. In fact, check me. I'm so busy watching that ball thinking it was going to be a home run. A 1-run scores on the long double. Take another look as to how close it came. Peterson was watching, then realized that Parra was a long way away. And it was that close. It hit the wall. So it's a long double by Peterson. Here comes Ethier. He had that slight hamstring, and he had to test it and score. And the Dodgers take a 3-2 lead. More cheerleading from Jimmy Rollins to make sure he gets a run home, along with Kike Hernandez. So Jock Peterson just misses the home run. He'll settle for the double, and the Dodgers take the lead. Parra, LaCroix, and Braun are due up in the 8th inning. So here's Howie Kendrick. Grounded out, struck out, hit what might have been a double play ball off the glove of the pitcher Nelson, and now he's robbed by Gene Segura. However, the Dodgers got a huge break and cashed it in. Score 3 because of it, and at the end of 7, it's 3-2 Dodgers. Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop ChooseNissan.com. We go to the 8th inning. It's 3-2 in favor of the Dodgers. Scott Van Slyke takes over in left field. J.P. Howell is on the mound. Interesting now with the Dodgers out in front. That would be part of a story if Sal, who's been gone for 8 years, comes back and picks up a victory tonight. He made 11 pitches, and he could do it if Howell hangs on with Pedro Baez behind him. Gerardo Parra flied to left, grounded to short, grounded to second, 0 for 3. And ball one. Parra hitting .305. J.P. Howell with a record of 4-1. And talk about an earned run average. His is 0.3. Little fly ball to left field. Here comes Van Slyke and makes the play. So Van Slyke makes the catch. Peterson takes the ball out of his glove like a caddy taking the ball out of the hole. Then Peterson retrieves Van Slyke's cap.
Number 20.
A little bit of valet service out there in left field by Jock Peterson. Here's the catch. And then as he slides, Van Slyke holding the ball. A big cheer from J.P. Howell. And we have one out in the 8th inning. Jonathan LaCroix struck out, walked, grounded out, 0 for 2. And a strike. The paid attendance tonight, 44,200. 44,200. We were talking a moment ago when the runs came in, all on the error by Hernan Perez. You can always find a reason why a team is last or really playing poorly. Well, let's take a look at errors. The most errors in the National League, Milwaukee. The least errors in the National League, Los Angeles. One team first, one team 19.5 back. So 2 out here in the 8th inning on fly balls to left and right. Ryan Braun will be coming up.
Right fielder number 8, Ryan Braun.
Adam Libator and Pedro Baez are throwing side by side now. Rick Honeycutt going out to talk to Howell. Let's take a look. J.P. Howell and Ryan Braun. Braun is 1 for 1 against him in the past. Not much to learn from that. 3-2 Dodgers, top of the 8th inning. Interesting in looking at the Brewer lineup. If Braun makes out the 9th inning, you would have Lind, then you'd have Carlos Gomez, and then you would have Hernan Perez, the young man who made that huge error. Sitting next to Gene Segura, he has nothing to say. Ball one. Game 2 tomorrow night. Taylor Youngman will be pitching for Milwaukee, and it looks like Brandon Beachy will be pitching for the Dodgers. Right. 1-1. The concluding game on Sunday, Kyle Loesch and Brett Anderson. 1-1. 1-2. Braun 15 home runs. Big man in RBIs. .55 RBIs. Right behind him is Lind, and in between Adrian Gonzalez. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Hits the plate. 3-2 the count. Dodgers scored 3 times in the 7th after trailing 2-0. The wild pitches bringing in runs for Milwaukee in the 5th. 3-2. And a little pop fly into shallow left center, base hit. So Braun bloops one with 2 out. And the batter will be Lind, who is 0 for 3. Adam Lind, a left-hand hitter, has 15 home runs, all of them against right-hand pitching. 47 runs batted in against right-handers and hitting .309 against them. Against left-handers, no home runs, 5 runs batted in and hitting only .234. And a strike. Lind has been a red-hot hitter for the last 32 games, but he's 0 for 3 tonight, and he is 0 for 12 in the past against Howell. Braun at first is a very good base stealer and representing the tying run. Braun has stolen 12 out of 13. But he has a left-hander keeping an eye on him. 0-1. Oh, 2. Three runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 7 hits, and 2 errors for Milwaukee. Oh, 2. Howell is fortunate that Scott Van Slyke made that good sliding catch of the bloop hit by Parra, or he'd be in some trouble. Scotty made a fine play. 0-2. Howell fakes off the rubber. In the dirt to the backstop. Though another wild pitch. Bolsinger made 2 wild pitches in the 5th inning to set up the runs for Milwaukee. And now JP tosses one away, and Braun is at second base. 3 wild pitches for the Dodgers. Yasmani Grandal has made a lot of trips going back to the backstop. So 1-2 the count to Lind. Braun the tying run, 2 out, 8th inning. And in the dirt, boxed by Randall. Howell 0 for 12, as we mentioned. Of the 12 at-bats, he struck out twice against Howell. Breaking ball tapped to the hole. Backhanded by Rollins. Throws him out. No runs, 1 hit, a man left at second base. Nice play by Rollins. And we're heading to the bottom of the 8th. 3-2 Dodgers. The free award-winning game millions are playing. Download MLB.com. Home Run Derby free on the App Store and Google Play. Talking about home runs, the Giants had an 8-run inning. They're now leading handily 10-2. And in the 8-run inning, Hunter Pence hit a grand slam against Cole Hamels. Cole Hamels had allowed 1 other grand slam in his entire career, and also the 9 earned runs against Cole, the most he ever allowed in a game. Well, happy birthday to Will Smith. He is 26 years old today, and they drop him in this gem. 3-2 Dodgers, bottom of the 8th inning. Justin Turner will be there to meet him. Foul ball off to the right. 0-1 the count. Justin Turner 0 for 3. Grounded out twice to second base. Jeanette took a base hit away from him. And last time up, hit into a force play. That's pull foul. Will Smith is out of Noonan, Georgia. He's not as big as Jimmy Nelson, but almost. Nelson 6'6". Smith is 6'5". Nelson weighs 245. Smith weighs 240. Went to Gulf Coast Community College in Florida. Turner goes down swinging. 1 out, bottom of the 8th. J.P. Howell, by the way, made 15 pitches in the 8th inning. Kenley Jansen is warming up now in the Dodger bullpen. Adrian Gonzalez grounded to second, flied to center, flied to left, 0 for 3, hitting .287. Will Smith was originally signed by the Angels back in 2008. Ball 1. Meanwhile, Howell, Jock Peterson, A.J. Ellis, 1-1 the count. All realizing the ups and downs of a single game. I mean, the two wild pitches gave the Brewers 2 runs. The error with 2 out by Hernan Perez helped the Dodgers turn it around to lead 3-2. 1-2 to Adrian. And Adrian chasing one down. He goes to go 0 for 4. So you figure the Dodgers are going to struggle scoring runs when the number 3 hitter is 0 for 4, the number 4 hitter is 0 for 4, and the number 5 hitter has only had 1 at bat and popped up. And that's Grandal, who walked and was hit by a pitch. So Will Smith strikes out 2. When the Brewers come up in the 9th inning, they will have Carlos Gomez, followed by Hernan Perez, the third baseman who made the error, and then Gene Segura. One ball and no strikes. And the Dodgers will be countering with Kenley Jansen. Carlos Gomez is 1 for 1 against Canley, and that was a double. Hernan Perez has never faced him, nor has Gene Segura. 3-0. And ball 4. So for Grandal, he walked up to the plate 4 times tonight, and he winds up 0 for 1 with 2 walks and a hit batter. Yasiel Puig walked, hit into a force play, and struck out. Dodgers have only 5 hits, but a big 3 runs. Right. Yasiel hitting .275, 4 home runs, 14 runs batted in. Check swing. Yes, he did, says Cowboy Joe. 0-2, and Puig's visibly annoyed. Here's the bum check. Got that bat out there. Out there. All right, 0-2. Foul tipped in a way. To repeat in the 9th inning, it'll be Carlos Gomez, we think Hernan Perez, and then Gene Segura. Perez, by the way, is hitting .338. No home runs, 2 RBIs. He hadn't really played a lot. Fastball off the plate at 95. Will Smith signed by the Angels, but made it to the big leagues with the Royals in 2012. Came to the Brewers last year. And for Puig, still thinking about the check swing for a strike, now strikes out. So for Will Smith, happy birthday. He strikes out the side. And we're heading for the 9th. So is Kenley Jansen. 3-2 Dodgers. Jansen is now asked to turn out the lights. Kenley with a record of 2-1, an earned run average of 1.8. What's always dazzling is the strikeout to walk ratio, 34 strikeouts and just 2 walks. He's worked just shy of 20 innings, and it'll be Carlos Gomez, Hernan Perez, and Gene Segura. Now to look up Kenley Jansen, Carlos Gomez, a tough hombre. He is 1 for 1 against Kenley, and it was a double. Tonight, Gomez singled, struck out, grounded to third. Three runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers, 2 runs, 7 hits for Milwaukee. 0-1. Again, the interesting angle about So. He's been gone from the big leagues 8 years, returns tonight, and could be the winning pitcher. One ball, one strike. Hernan Perez on deck. One ball and one strike. One and two. Gomez 8 home runs. Tied up with 1 swing. Down he goes. So Jansen picks up a strikeout, 1 out, and now Hernan Perez is not going to come up. He didn't even have a chance to try and make up. It'll be Chris Davis, right-hand batter, coming up to hit for him. So for Hernan Perez, what a bad night. This game will thrill you and break your heart.
Brewers, number 18, Chris Davis.
So Chris Davis now coming up. Chris Davis is from Glendale, went to school at Cal State Fullerton. And a strike. Davis had some sock last year for the Brewers. Chris hit 22 home runs and 69 runs batted in. One ball and one strike. And another strike. That cutter of Kenley's really working that time. On deck, Gene Segura, the shortstop. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Chris Davis. Davis signed by the Brewers in 2009. 27 years old. He'd be 28 a couple of days before Christmas. And ball 3. Waiting on deck, Segura, and a 3-2 count to Davis, whose father worked in the Mariners organization. Got him. So Jansen comes in, strikes out Gomez, strikes out Davis, and Segura coming up. And the Dodgers 1 out away as the fastball took good care of Chris Davis. 3 runs, 5 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 2 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors for Milwaukee. And Segura fouls it away. Gene Segura is 3 for 3. Twice he singled to the hole at short, singled to center, and scored a run. Jansen trying to nail down his 15th save, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Tomorrow night, Taylor Youngman and apparently Brandon Beachy for the Dodgers. And a fly ball to right center. It will be Puig. So the Dodgers, thanks to a huge error by Hernan Perez, turn it around, trailing 2-0. They win it 3-2, and Perez, the loneliest guy in town tonight, and you can understand how he must feel. Jansen made 13 pitches, and most interesting, the fact that Chen-Chi Kwu picked up the victory, has not been in the big leagues in 8 years, and he is the winning pitcher. The play of the game, Jock Peterson's double that scored Andre Ethier, and the Dodgers pull it out. As the Giants pound Philadelphia, the Dodgers remain 5.5 in front, 6.5 in front of Arizona. A reminder, tomorrow night at 7:10, we'll talk to you then. Till then, for all of us, to all of you, we wish you a very pleasant good evening, everybody.